everyone. If we haven't said it yet, Happy New Year to you. This is the Creativity Cocktail. It's 2022, and I'm here with the wonderful Elisa Cornish. Hello, 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 hello.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello,
welcome.
Wins.
She is
Good
a
to be here.
she's a phenomenal playwright. I know we haven't talked in a while because you and I we meet, with some other playwrights throughout the year, and it's been so
Right.
great to meet you and have you as friends. So great to have you on the show today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I look forward to when we're not in hiatus again and really meeting
yes,
in
yes,
person and doing our new thing.
yeah. I feel the same way that you do. I think at first, when this all first happened, Alicia, maybe you can share your comments on this. I was okay with like, all right, we got to do this because it's the right thing for us to do as a country and as a people, and we have to make sure we're protecting people. But I have to tell you that after 2 years, it's really exhausting. Like,
It is so exhausting. It's beyond annoying at this point.
yes,
And I know they try to blame the blame game is in, but
oh gosh,
it is what
everyone,
it is.
everyone's pointing their fingers, but we as a humanity, we as a people, just got to take care of each other, and we've got
We
to make,
do,
yeah, we got to make a decision at some point. Like, is it
you
about
know?
the future, and how do we take care of each other in the future? Because we can't keep going through this. Um,
Right. I heard this analogy that humanity is like an organ of the earth. And just like every cell of our body, like the cells in your arm don't know that maybe they comprise your whole arm, but they do. And when one cell is affected, the whole arm is. We try to be so individualistic, we're the cells of the human organ. And when one part is weak, we're all pretty much weak. And I think the pandemic really shows that, you know?
that's right. Yeah,
So,
I tell people it's so interesting that you're using an analogy I used recently because I was talking to a friend of mine and we were talking about the hubris that a lot of us have that we think we're controlling this or that, and I was like, we're like we're like hairs on our arm of the earth. You think about our whole body
mhm.
of us. It's like when we're doing something we think is important. It's like the earth scratches this forearm.
Right.
So
And humanity.
that's right.
Yeah. And and we talk about climate change and whatnot, but the earth will cleanse itself whether we're here or not.
Right.
And us not paying attention to the climate and the pollution that we generate affects us. It kills us off, but the earth will continue
That's right.
without
The
us.
earth is like
So it's kind of like,
that's right. Our time on the earth is like the earth sneezing. Like it's just like, it's like I had a sneeze, and then the sneeze is gone, and then you're okay. It's the same kind
right,
of thing. So,
right.
because you're right, because the earth is
So
going to
we're
be.
affecting our ability to exist on the earth, but we're not affecting the earth's ability to exist.
That's exactly right. The earth has got another 20 or so million years before something happens. So,
Right.
it's going to be all right. And so and it's so cool that you and I think similarly on this because our
Mhm.
egos sometimes prevail as humans. It just
Yeah.
does. And the cool thing about writing and creating like you and I do is that we get moments to like explore those kind of things. You know, the
Mhm.
the forces of ego that we all have. You know,
Yes.
we're all trying to
Yeah.
control the world. And it's not
Right.
possible. It's just not.
It's like learn to control yourself.
That's right. That's right. So
Learn to
again,
control yourself, love yourself,
that's right.
and you're
And
going to
love
be a
us. That's the
lot
only
better
thing we
off.
can do. That's the only thing we
That's
can
right.
do. Everything else is just something we're making up to
Yeah.
keep ourselves occupied. I was
Yeah.
watching a show recently. It's one of these shows on HBO, and it was about these people, these rich people. The name escapes me. And I was saying to myself while I was watching the show, I was like, wow, these people are really bored. So, they were
And
like,
how can you be bored with that much money? Oh my
that's right.
gosh,
They
I
were
could
like
really
bored.
fill my time.
It's like, oh, I need somebody to come to the party, and if they don't come to the party, then my life is over. I was like, well, you're still
Oh, are
there.
you talking about that new show? Yeah, The Gilded Age.
Yes, yes, yes. With some of my favorite
Yes,
actors in it.
that woman.
I was like,
Honey,
okay. I was like, it's
her
bad.
husband's trying to tell her.
That's right.
Yes.
But you're still like the richest people in the community, and then she was just like, my life is over. People ain't come to my party.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's trying to say, will you just invite your old friends,
That's right.
your true friends,
That's
let
exactly
them
right.
enjoy this?
I did enjoy that show quite a bit. It just falls in line with
Yeah.
the way I think. So you are a
Yeah.
phenomenal playwright, and
Well, thank you
you,
for that. So are
yeah,
you.
thank you so much. And so I love to talk to people like yourself. So tell us a little bit about your writing journey. Like, maybe go backwards. Tell us where you are today, and then talk a little bit about how you've come to be the awesome playwright that you are.
Well, I'm a musical girl. I love musicals. I guess everything for me is um, affected by music, and I can't imagine, writing a play, straight play without music. I think I would go to if I don't write musicals for the stage, I would do screenwriting because music is involved in that too, and telling the story. And so, uh, gosh, my journey. I remember in high school, my English teacher said, "You really are a talented creative writer." But I didn't really listen to her
Mhm.
because at the time when I was growing up, it was women's lib, and doing a man's job was what women wanted to do. We wanted to be engineers and whatnot because that was new, and so I went towards electronics engineering, something that I have no really ability to do, but I went to college to do that and got so bored.
Wow.
And but it led me to broadcast television production, and I was able to get a cooperative education job in Houston at KHOU TV, which is the CBS affiliate. And so that's when I really was able, on the production creative side, able to use my storytelling
Wow.
again. And
I did not know
after
you did
working there,
that. Yeah.
yeah, after working there for 8 years, my husband at the time got a job in radio at the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we just moved to the Virgin Islands, and I sat on the beach
Wow,
while he worked. And I think
that
after
is cool.
a while, he was kind of offended by style of mine
He he
and my
he killed it.
resume to the local television station there.
No.
Huh?
No, no, keep going. You said he
And
took it to the local
the
radio or television
he
station, I
took
think.
my resume to the local TV station, which is, a very, very small market on the islands.
Mhm.
And I was, I spoke with the news director because I told him that I was really bored with doing television production. And in his market, they didn't have the equipment, they just weren't up to speed. And he says, "Well, would you like to try news?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a degree in journalism." And he says, "Well, I'll teach you how to write TV news." And he had me read a book, How to Write TV News, Television News. And then he said, "You can work as the photographer with the reporters and go out on the stories, and you'll edit the stories with them, and you'll learn from that too." And I did. And when I really knew what I was doing, he let me be a news reporter. And on the Virgin Islands, that I would
Awesome.
handle the legislature, and that's basically soft news because you don't want to scare the tourists with all the the crime. You don't want to talk about the crime and mayhem that may be happening on the island. So you
Yeah.
do really touristy stories and environmental stories. And that's where I really got into the environmental, save the island, the impact the construction was having on the island, the
Right.
way littering on the beach was killing the sea turtles
Oh,
because
man.
the sea turtles, unbelievably, people leave dirty diapers on the beach and plastic,
Really?
and the sea turtles see that as jellyfish, and then when they eat it, they die. So
Dirty
that became
diapers?
my biggest thing, was saving the sea turtles.
Oh, no.
But it really helped, and it really had an impact. So I really like that. But after 2 years living there, you get island fever. You want to get off that rock, and so we moved to LA. And in
Wow,
LA, I
LA, that's
got a
a big
job at.
difference.
It's a huge difference. It was so crazy. And we had a friend that helped us move, but he moved us into the hood.
Mhm,
So all of a sudden, we went from the lovely beach, tropical
mhm.
atmosphere, to hearing helicopters all night and looking outside and seeing hookers on the street. And even one night, DEA agents, you know, sneaking across our lawn to try to go sneak up on somebody. And we were like, what have you done to us? We
Gosh.
went from paradise to this. But he worked at a girls and boys club, and he said, well, you didn't have a car, and you could use my car during the day if you lived here. And it was wild, but we found our way around LA. I eventually got a job with Warner Brothers, working in production again. And I started writing on the side, and eventually we got tired of LA. We felt like LA, we had children, and raising your children in LA is it's really hard for them,
Right.
in the different neighborhoods. It's like they couldn't play outside with that by themselves without worrying about who may come by. It was just not a good family lifestyle to us. And
It's like
so
you're a
we
prisoner
left.
in your own house, seems.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we moved here to Atlanta, and been here ever since 1983. Lived in
Wow.
Atlanta. So I've probably lived here longer than I've lived anywhere in
You
my
know, that
life.
whole part of your life, Elisa, about you being in television on I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
That,
Hmm.
you've got your own memoir ready to go whenever you're ready to
Right.
go.
Well, then, when I moved here, I worked for IBM, and they have a great, very innovative production facility for creating their training videos and the like here in Atlanta. And then that grew into a beautiful web design development center that was just state of the art. It was just like you hear about in Google and whatnot. We had pool tables and bring your pets to work day, and pool tables, ping pong tables, chair massages.
Wow.
It was just so luxurious, and I became a project manager for web design development. So
You know, you said
yeah,
something that was
and
interesting.
and writing became on my sideline, my hobby.
That's right. Something that struck me in what you were sharing about you doing electrical engineering initially, and I remember just for myself, they give these kids in high school like these kind of assessments or whatever. And the assessment said that I had the highest propensity to be an electrical engineer or capability to be an electrical engineer of anyone in my class by far. I'm telling you, I went into the class because this was like some advanced class around it. And 3 days after I was in it, I was like, this is the worst class in history. I was like, this is the most boring class in history. Like, when are we going to like do engineering? And it wasn't until sometime like the next year or something. And I went to my guidance counselor. I said, I can't do this. He's like, once you got the highest, assessment capacity in the class. I was like, I don't care, man. I do not want to do this. I want to go and, can I get an extra art class or a different kind of class? Because, I was an artist in those days. And, I, and,
Right.
and, and when you shared that to me, I was like, sometimes I think that people don't understand how your brain is wired or how our brains are wired.
Mhm.
They think because, all right, you took some assessment or you had this, this kind of inclination or just even a moment, oh yeah, Elise will be a great electrical engineer. That's not necessarily who you are. I don't think people know that. They don't, and I
Right.
think they don't understand that sometimes we as creatives, we will find creative ways to beat tests or do assessments.
Or you really have that talent and that ability, but it's not really what inspires you and motivates you and turns you on. It's not what you want to do.
Oh gosh, it was
So,
so boring. And you know what I did when I was in college? I went and I used to install stereos into people's cars.
mhm,
Like you have the big
mhm,
about the big speaker systems and all that. That required
right.
electrical engineering.
Right.
But
You
I
have
did
that
that. It
ability.
was fun, and I got paid for doing it, for helping them out, and that was more fun than sitting in the class, like math class number 4. That was ridiculous to me. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do
Oh, me too. The
it.
math got just overwhelming after a while. I was like,
It's just so
no,
horrible, and I think people think that when they meet you and I, sometimes they'll put a label on us, and they'll say,
no.
"Well,
Mhm,
I had a conversation with Lisa, and that means that she is this thing," but they don't really know you per se. They don't know
mhm,
your creative spirit per se. They just
mm.
say, "Well, she dressed a certain way, or she used a certain kind of language, or she looked a certain kind of way, and then that's who she is." And
Yeah,
we as human beings, we have to really find ways to really get to know each other.
yeah. And I've done so many different things, which to me really helps in writing. I have something to write about. I have interests. I have a lot of life experience now where I feel that maybe in high school where I didn't really feel the passion to be a writer, even though I was good at it. I really have that
Yeah.
passion now of telling stories. And I think journalism, I approach playwriting really like journalism from a research, interviewing other people process to tell the story because I want the dialogue to be very authentic and different and real. And so I'm not somebody that, without having researched and interviewed, is really good at just sitting there and making up a whole dialogue for a whole play and all the different characters. I need to go out and hear how people that I'm writing about really talk and how they really express themselves so it
Yeah. I was talking to a
sounds
friend.
authentic.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine right before our conversation today about creative processes, and he had a process very similar to your own, where he outlined everything and he researched it, and he had this whole character breakdown, etc. And I shared with
Mhm.
him that as structured as I am about everything in life, that is the one area, depending on the story, where I'm less structured, where I
Mhm.
have like this, I write the first few lines of the end of a story, and then I
Mhm.
work backward. I create summaries. The only caveat to all of that I shared with him is that when I'm doing something that's science fiction or fantasy based, that requires this whole world building thing that people talk about a lot. That requires a lot.
Yes,
So that requires some
that's a
in
lot.
that requires a lot of thought in regards to what
Mhm.
that is, who is that, what's going on in there. But sometimes I was doing this thing where I was categorizing all of the stories that I've had in my head and the ones that I've written and the ones that I am writing, and it was dozens of them. And sometimes I got to go for it, and sometimes it's really
Yeah.
horrible. Sometimes it's really
Well,
horrible, and
writing is rewriting, rewriting,
that's right. That's
rewriting.
right. It is. It is. It's just rewriting and sometimes it's coming from a place of emotion, like something's pain on my heart. Then
Mhm.
that starts there. But does that stay the whole time? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I feel differently about things.
Mhm.
That's the thing I love about writing, and your thoughts are please share. Is that it like makes us tap into like our spirit a bit? I think.
Yes. Oh, the whole process for me is a spiritual one, and uh, I through writing, I developed spiritually. I developed a clairvoyance. It's when I'm writing and really in the groove, there's sparkly lights all around me. And then I just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm really connecting with my inner being or the other writers on the other side who are now trying to communicate through me. It's to me, it's a very, very, very spiritual, inspirational process. Uh,
It's awesome. You and I have a mutual friend that shared that their character talks to them a bit. And I was thinking about the most
mhm.
recent thing that I'm writing, and the characters are always talking to me. Like when I'm taking a walk or something, or I'm doing something else that's like not focused, like right now, the characters will have a conversation with me. They were like, "Don't hit this one part here." Or what if, telling you, I don't know if it's borderline, it's like a mental thing or whatever. I could care.
Schizophrenic?
I could care. Like
No.
there was that one movie where a guy had like 3 different personalities or something like that. I don't know whether that's the deal or not. All I know is that
No.
when they're talking to me, I try to capture it, but that's like the
Mhm.
most fun part about writing to me, is that the story talks even when you're not writing.
Yes. And then I turn on that iPhone. I love those iPhones where I can record that little moment of
Yes.
thought that just came.
Yes, I do that all
Yeah.
the time too. I have like disparate notes for every single character because they're just things I captured, and I was taking a walk, and I just had
Yes.
this epiphany about
That's
that.
clairaudience.
That's right.
Those little voices.
That's right. And it's just like, oh, whoa, wait, huh? Yeah. And you're exactly right about the rewriting portion of it.
Oh yeah, it's
Uh,
always that. You rewrite it yourself so many times, and then since theater is such a collaborative experience, all of it is. Whether it's film, television, it's all so collaborative. Here come the rewrites again. Once somebody else is involved,
that's right. It just
it's
is.
always evolving.
What's your
So
process? Like when you're ready to start to write, do you have to have like a kind of a zen kind of thing happening for you to write, or like where you have to have a certain amount of things in place or music in place? What's your process when you're ready to write or
I
create?
can't listen to other music because when I'm trying to create, I have to listen to the music that it's so crazy because I started with musical Shakespeare. That was the first thing I ever did because I heard this. I don't know if you want to call it a conspiracy theory or whatever that Christopher Marlowe was the real Shakespeare,
Oh,
and that he was a spy, a British spy. And well, actually, Christopher Marlowe was the bastard son of an aristocrat, and so he went to all the finest schools. And they say he became a spy, but he got in an argument with some people. He was a great writer, and he got in an argument, and the I don't know what you call it, that's over the spies. They wanted to save him, and so they faked his death
gotcha.
and sent him off to another country to live and write. And they paid the actor, William Shakespeare, to use his name as his pen name.
Oh,
And so I'm like, oh, really? Well, if that's it, let me read everything that Christopher Marlowe wrote, and then
right.
let me read everything Shakespeare wrote and compare them. And because if he's the same writer, I'm going to be able to hear his voice, and I do believe that story because of that. Their writing is the same, so that got me into Shakespeare. And then I love the sonnets, so I would memorize sonnets, and then while I was taking my walks, I would recite the sonnets to
Wow.
myself, and then I could start to draw comparisons to different stories that I wrote or different read of Shakespeare or um, sonnets that I was reciting to different songs that I was hearing by other artists like Sting or Seal or There's so many. Alicia Keys, even.
Mhm.
And I came up with this musical Shakespeare where I certain Shakespeare stories that I loved, and I connected different songwriters' music because I felt like the songwriters needed to be songwriters that were on the same level as Shakespeare. So many of them are famous, and I interjected their songs into the stories, and I became that became musical Shakespeare. So I have like 5 plays. Pericles, Prince of Tyre, is filled with songs by Seal. It's like those artists became the main character, and so I would take songs of theirs and you know put it in the play. So it was that's what really got me into playwriting
Wow.
and
That's
saying, okay, I've done this. Now let me try something more original. And so I went to Cervantes. And it's so silly because in the conspiracy
mhm.
theory of Christopher Marlowe, there's this theory that he and Miguel de Cervantes became really good friends, and that he was the one that made, originally wrote the English translations of Cervantes' work. And if you read the English translations, they do sound like Shakespeare probably wrote those. so,
Mhm.
so I say, well, let me find a Cervantes
Mhm.
story, a gypsy story. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could find a gypsy story, that would make such a great musical. Well, Cervantes had one, La Gitania, the little gypsy girl, and so I turned that's Preciosa, into a musical. So that was my next step.
Sure,
And I'm
sure.
still trying to find the right collaborator to write the music for that one. And then I went all the way original. Let me come up with my own original story and work with other original artists. And that's Rhymes and Reasons. And then
Which
Blue
I'm
Butterfly.
so honored that you shared some of that with myself and others. So I appreciate that. And
Cute. Um, and then Blue Butterfly is the one I'm working on now, which is original, but it's about some friends of mine who were Bosnian soldiers. And they're Muslim and they're here. They were refugees, they're citizens now. And it's really their story, um, and their story of really how life was as a soldier and in that war and how that war started and then how their life has been as a refugee here and the different issues, the mental PTSD sort of issues of life after Bosnia, and then to find themselves in a country that has a whole segment now that even talks about sedition, in the way of let's do it like the Serbs did it.
you're exactly right.
That's certain
Yeah.
things that are coming out, and I didn't have an end for that musical until the insurrection happened, and they were aghast, and I'm like, okay, here's my ending. Here they are. They're a full circle moment. They're back to a country that wants to do the same stupid thing that happened to them before.
Isn't that something? Yeah,
Mhm,
that about how events can affect us as creatives. You know,
mhm,
so I think I've shared that I had a play that I was sitting on that I loved, but I wrote it not far after 9/11. But I never went and put it out there. And then when the pandemic started, something called to me. That play called to me from my Dropbox and said, "Hey, it's time for me and for this play." And going back to rewriting, I went and spent some time and made it really reflective of a hopeful future that's going to happen when we're all past this. We're all past this current
mhm.
pandemic. And
Oh, nice.
it was sort of it was when I did the writing or the reading of it in 2020. It was well received. I had people from New York because at the time I did the reading, that was right when New York was having its biggest difficulty. with the pandemic, right?
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
we
Mm,
remember the
it was
news.
really
Yeah, we remember the news and all that was going on. And I had people who shared, oh my gosh, we're looking forward to that and that hopeful future that I wrote. And you know, fast forward now, it's been 2 years. And so it's
still
time,
not there.
that's right. Because I wrote it like, oh
We're
yeah,
hopeful.
this thing's gonna be over by the end of 2020, and it wasn't.
That's everyone was like, "Yay, 2021," and 2021 was like more the same, and then it's like, "Oh, 2022, yay!"
Yes, the amount of stories that are going to come out of this time is going to be so many because so many perspectives have happened throughout it. You know, so Elise, right now you talked about a little bit about what you're working on and what you've got coming up here in the future,
Mhm.
and you talked about kind of your path. Like when you think about
Mm.
who is inspiring you today, when you think about just a person or a symbol that's out there that's got you energized every time you see her or him, and you say that person
Wow.
got me jazzed, or I like what they're doing. Who are some of those people for you?
Ken Davenport, Broadway producer,
Mm,
because he has always talked about self-producing your work, and he really uh, motivates, inspires, gives you tools of how to self-produce your work.
yeah,
Uh, I'm really inspired by him. At first, I was like, oh gosh, raising money. As a creative, you're like, really?
it
But
is.
then I think of people and I think, wow, Tyler Perry did that.
Mhm.
That's why Tyler Perry is who he is now. He didn't wait for someone to produce his work. He realized he had to get out there and he went to the church, he got backing and look at him today. So it can be done. And I
Mhm.
think really that's the biggest thing on my mind right now is grabbing that entrepreneurial spirit. And really, that's why I like what we're doing, our little group together,
Yeah,
is just coming together and that's what you've done. You've
yeah.
self-produced.
And it was such an amazing learning experience for me. You know,
Mhm,
I don't think sometimes you understand all the things that are necessary to do that. It's not just the raising the capital part. It was finding the volunteers. It was being a de facto stage manager in some cases. It's the dramaturg. It's
mhm,
like all of these things that you need to really think about. And I do like it
mhm.
because for me, when I was doing it, and I was saying to myself, all right, so we got to do marketing because we got to get some people to come to the show to help pay for the show. So we got to do that.
Mm.
At the same time, we got to
Right.
so we got to make the show authentic. We got to make it good. We got to make
Mhm,
sure that the characters are on point. It was really, really stressful in the best way possible. I
mhm,
I think there's good stress and bad
mhm.
stress, and
Right.
it was. So yeah, I I appreciate you saying that because we as creators we have to think about these days. There's so many ways people can get access to content. Right?
Mhm,
There's so many ways that now that's created this opportunity where everyone's got their tribe, their followers that will love their work. Every single person. The tricky thing is
mhm.
that we got to find that group.
You gotta find it,
Yeah,
but it's there. It's an abundant universe. It just is. Abundance is everywhere in everything.
that's right.
So
I just do a quick
you can
in my
find
head.
it.
It's 8 billion
It
people.
exists.
There's 8 billion
That's
people. There's got to be 20,000 people who dig your work.
yeah.
Out of those people, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I've
just
been listening to a lot of relationship coaches talking about, people say, I got to find that one person. Is there that one person? And there is an abundance of that one person for you. If you're just open to it, there's not just one
that's
out of a
right.
billion.
The math
So,
tells us that you got 20,000 people and they support you with $50 or so. then you're a millionaire or
You're
close to.
good. You're good.
So,
You're golden.
so, so the tricky part is just to find that, and that's the thing that we
Yeah.
all are creators, and that's the reason why I and yourself and others we're toggling quite a bit. We're flipping switches because we know we
Mm-hmm.
need to help each other find that audience at the
Yeah,
same time that we create. Mhm.
exactly. And, also being a collective of playwrights doing that is, I like it because, as they say, business is a team sport. It's not just you by
Right.
yourself, it's your team. So I find our group very inspirational, and it motivates me even more to grab this entrepreneurial spirit and,
And keep it.
do this thing.
That's right.
Hmm.
So it's been so awesome to have you. The thing I love about our conversation here today, and that's the reason why I love to have different people on, is that your spiritual core is evident in your comments that you've shared. It's not, sometimes some people will come on and they'll talk with us about business stuff, or they'll talk about entrepreneurial or something else that's going on in the community. You are giving us like this holistic thing. So if you're out there and you're listening to Elise now or a year from now, she's giving you some guidance in regards to tapping into your core. And I personally appreciate that. And I appreciate your inspiration. So I got a question
Well, I
for
appreciate you too. Yeah.
you. I got a question for you. This is
Mhm.
the doozy, as we call it. So so there's somebody out there, and they're saying themselves, these two, they're high functioning creatives. They got all this stuff going on, and it's true. We are high functioning creatives, so,
Mhm.
and they're saying to
Mhm.
themselves, "But I don't know. I'm stressed. I'm depressed. I don't know where to start. I don't know who, what I should do first." And then they call or contact you, and you say to them, let me give you some advice. So share with the audience what that advice would be to that person.
Love yourself more. Love yourself. I mean, to me, self love, when you get on the journey of self love, looking within, looking for happiness from within, when you establish that connection with your inner self, is when the answers start to just flow through you. When you stop looking for conditions to have to change for you to be happy, when you stop
Mm,
looking at yourself, and being hard on yourself, and you allow yourself to just be and be happy with who you are, uh, content with who you are, accepting of who you are. You might not be content with who you are, but accepting of who you are. And you don't beat yourself up, and you realize that even if Trump is the president, I can still be happy. I just have to turn off the news. No.
it's-
when you become, when you, it just intuitively flows from you what your next step should be. You know,
I like.
that's how it works. Right?
I love the comment about being happy, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we fight. Like, you ever hear this thing where someone says, "Well, I want to try to be happy," and then there's five things have to fall into the box, into the pegs
No,
to be happy.
no, you have to change your thinking. You have to reach for a thought that makes you happy, even if it's just like a picture on your wall. I do an appreciation journal every morning. I meditate every morning, to quiet my mind. To learn how to quiet your mind is really important because when you're in a stressful situation, then you know how to quiet your mind and not dwell on what you don't want. You know how to calm yourself so that the answers can come. So every morning I meditate. I remember a teacher told me, when people say, I don't have time to meditate, their response is, you don't have time not to,
That's right.
because connecting to your inner self is the most important thing. Aligning with that soul God within you that meditation gives you by quieting your mind can make the difference in your whole day. And then when come out of meditation, I don't try to think of the messed up thing that happened to me yesterday and bring those thoughts all back. I stay clear and I start writing in my appreciation journal at least 5 things that I appreciate. And it usually goes further than that, 5 things that I appreciate today.
That is so
And
nice.
so it can be just that I appreciate that picture on my wall. Sometimes things that you used to appreciate become a thorn in your side, especially if it's a person, if you say, and then you get in an argument and you're like, well, I can't reach for that as a happy thought today. I have to ban my thoughts, I'm just happy. Oprah, I read Oprah say, when that happens to her, because she does that too. She calls it her gratitude journal.
Mhm.
Um, she says, "I'm grateful I can breathe. I can breathe." That's a
That's
good one.
that's a good,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a good
Mm.
place to start. That's for sure. Wow.
Exactly.
I let
That
you.
usually gets my day on the right, off on the right track.
You just sharing that. I hope everyone listened because it was just your voice, the way you were describing that was meditative in of itself. And so
Mhm,
take those moments to just really stop and really listen. And every single one of us are grateful for something. We just
mhm,
are. And we don't have to search far for it. And I was sharing earlier that sometimes when you hear these people and they're getting like really upset or angry about things, or they retreat inward, and people go, "Why aren't you just as mad about this thing as I am?" Or why are you not upset about this thing? And a lot of times is the control that we are trying to exert in the world. We're trying to say, let me control every single moment of every single thing instead of trying to be present for the moment itself and trying to
right.
understand how do I help those in this particular moment, if it is possible.
Mhm,
How do I listen to
mhm.
this moment as opposed to saying, "Oh, I gotta fix it, or I gotta fight it, I gotta make it my thing." Gotta,
Yeah, and what you fight against fights you right back.
that's
That's
exactly
just the
right.
law.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
that's physics, actually.
I
You know,
gotta fight the virus.
resistance.
I'm on my own
Yes,
fight the
and
virus.
so we're creating more virus.
Exactly right. And the
Because what
virus.
you give attention to expands.
That's right. I don't care
Expand.
what them people saying. This is my fight, and next thing you know, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. Right. It just doesn't. It's
Mhm.
really about us really appreciating each other. To me, that's like the only reason like why we're here. Like we'll make up stuff.
Yes.
Like we're supposed to do all this other stuff. We're supposed to do these other things. We made up all of this fantasy about all these other things, but we're just supposed to be here for each other. That's the life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're actually supposed to have fun.
that's right.
No,
That's right.
life is supposed to be fun.
It is. We can make fun out of everything. I always tell a
So
story.
finding happiness within is,
I,
the first step, and not depending on others for your happiness is in everything, in every relationship. It's so freeing for you and the other person that you're relating to, because you're no longer depending on them to make you happy, or be conditionally some kind of way so that you can be feel better about yourself.
and here's the thing for
So
those who are listening: it's not stuff, it's not items that bring you happiness. It just isn't.
mm-mm, it
Your
isn't.
car might look really nice, or you might have a lot of cool clothes, or you might have a phenomenal house or something like that. But those things are all transitory moments of happiness.
And every time you have them, you get bored with them and you want another.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like we're
you
making
want
an
more,
illusion of happiness.
more.
An
That's right.
illusion. I want more and more stuff, and all of the stuff is not. It's like stuff is like a drug. Yeah, yeah, I said it. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
Like, because you want to get more of it, but then when you get it,
Mhm.
you got to find a place for it. Then you have to understand whether it has any value or excitement for you. Then all you do is just have a bunch of stuff that clutters your brain because you have so much stuff,
Right.
and it's not really helping you at all. in your life. It's just
Mhm.
making you more addicted to getting more of it. But you don't really know what it is because it's not making you happy.
Yeah, it's not really what you want. You're looking for happiness, and that's within.
And it
So,
starts
but I
with,
don't mind having stuff now. I don't want to tell
yeah, I don't mind having
anybody
stuff either that helps
that I
me.
don't want stuff.
Sometimes you gotta say, like, how much of it do you need? Like at one time I
Right.
went into my to my closet and I had all these suits and suits jackets and stuff. And I was like, oh well, this is a lot, but how many black ones do I need? Do I need like
Right.
do I need like 3 or 4 black ones? That don't make sense. Do I need all of these shoes? I need some that I really like. Which ones do I
Yeah.
really like? And why do I need this amount of shoes? I just don't. When I was a kid, I used to collect all of these comic books. A little bit
Mhm.
different thing because comic books bring you joy because you read them. And
Yeah.
so I'm saying to myself, why do we have so many items? And we in America and a lot of parts of the world, we've become addicted to the items. And then by having more
Mhm.
items, we create more clutter, not just for ourselves, but for the planet. So
Yes.
more stuff.
And more trash when you throw it
Right.
away.
Trash. Back to your thing earlier when you talked about the sea turtles and all of that stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
we create more of that. We got pollution in the ocean, we got pollution in space. You got
Mhm.
stuff going on.
Yeah. Now, so yeah, that's so deep. That reminds me of our boy, the Tesla guy, and Lord knows I love the Tesla, but him wanting to put more satellites up there, it's like
Gosh.
you're making it clean down here, but let's trash space.
That's
Let's
right.
trash the atmosphere with
Those
more.
things are going thousands of miles an hour, so they're gonna eventually hit each other and create more crash space. There was this thing recently where this thing that we launched, like one of those booster rockets to get us into space. It took off,
Mhm.
it went into space, and now it's going to crash in the moon. So now we're creating like trash on the moon. So,
Yeah, it's amazing.
so like now the moon is full of our trash. Like how much trash are we gonna make? And back to your earlier point, the Earth don't care. It's like to the Earth, Earth is like whatever. You guys aren't gonna be here that long. By the time
That's
I
right.
blink my eye, it's home.
I'll clean this all up by the
That's right.
time
It ain't hurting me.
by the time you're the next civilization.
That's right. As soon as you do so, oh, you gonna try to make it warm? Okay, how about I just throw the polar vortex on you guys for a while?
Right.
You know what it could
Here
look
goes
like.
an ice age for your
That's
ass.
right. Here you go.
Survive that.
Just some of that. Deal with that for the next few months. This is what it's gonna look like if you keep jacking me up. And so it's so phenomenal to have you out with us today, Elisa.
Well, thank you. I've appreciated so much being here.
If
Thank you for
someone wants,
asking me.
no worries. We're hoping that you will be join us again in the future for sure.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
If somebody wants to get in contact with you or learn more about you, what are some of the
Mhm.
ways that they can do that?
My Facebook page or my website, iamaplaywright.com. Send me an email.
That is so awesome. I
That's
don't
the best
know
way.
that URL is worth a lot of money. I am a playwright. That is when you share that with me. I was like, man, she got to keep that website forever. One day you're gonna be able
I
to cash
will.
out on that website.
I'll just make it a portal
That's right. Make
for a
it a
lot of
portal.
places.
That's right. Make it a platform for everybody else. That's for sure. But for those of you who are out
Uh,
there who are creative, keep doing that every single day. Just take a moment.
mhm,
Don't try to say to yourself, I got to finish it all today. Just take that moment, whether it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes, to create a little bit more in your life. The universe has put you here to create stuff. And so
that's
do
right. We are creators. That's the
That's right.
point. We are
Right.
creators,
So if
not
you
regurgitators.
That's right. We are creative.
Creators.
We create and consume, consume and
Hmm.
create and consume. And then we create this cycle of dopeness in the world.
Yeah.
of beautiful things in the world. And so make sure you're on both sides of those things.
Yeah.
This is Winston with the Creativity Cocktail. We thank so much our wonderful guest, Elise Cornish, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Make sure you subscribe, make sure you do all that stuff so many more people in the world can hear about the wonderful, wonderful life of our creators. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.